Welcome, everybody, to the That Kind of Nerd podcast. I am CJ Mellon.
I am Brian Thornton.
And I am Josh Burns.
Welcome to our show. You guys ready?
I'm almost done eating, so sure.
All I have left after this is shrimp fried rice, beef sticks, and fortune cookies.
Before we got started to record, Brian was like, oh, hold on, I have Chinese food that just got delivered. Give me a moment. And I've been having technical difficulties actually just getting my Wi-Fi to connect and getting our recording all situated. And in the meantime, Brian has just been enjoying his dinner.
I have the whole bag.
On a
I have
batch.
the whole bag of fried wontons, and all you have to listen to the bag crinkle and me crunch the wontons throughout the entire show.
Even right now.
That's Brian's doing.
Even right now, he's still eating.
I was told not to mute my mic anymore, so whatever.
I didn't
Dude,
say.
you need to take your lunch break at work. You need to get some. You know what I mean? Like waiting until 10 o'clock at night and going, yeah, all this MSG seems like a good idea. I don't know.
I don't see how it could go wrong.
He doesn't have plans tomorrow. He's not doing anything productive.
Listen, to counteract that, you should probably go buy like a case of Pedialyte or something and just get some fluids, get some electrolytes back in you.
Well, hang on. Let me get the fortune cookie here.
Yeah, at this point, everybody needs to know what
Just let's go.
is.
Yeah. What I need to know what the fortune is. That's really what it comes down to.
It's not really a fortune. Lotto or not, that is the question.
What?
That's
What?
the fortune.
That's not a that's not a fortune. It's suggesting you gamble.
Proceed, CJ.
I'm sorry, I'm just let down by that quote unquote fortune.
Yeah, that was
cookie.
awful.
What the hell is that bullshit?
It's no some dumb goy. That's what I'm saying. You guys don't get the reference, and I don't care.
All right.
It's from the last Dragon. Go watch it.
So I was just about to say hello, listeners.
No, we're past that point.
I know.
They
No
get it. They
introductions
know
are
what
needed.
they know what they're hearing.
All right. The internet was very unkind to us. We were looking for. We usually kind of troll the internet and we kind of see what's been happening around, the web and seeing if there's anything great to spark a conversation. And unless you've pre-ordered an iPhone or are having issues with iOS 9, there's really nothing happening online right now.
I got a second fortune.
You got a second fortune cookie?
Yeah, I don't
Is
know
it going to
why.
be this podcast will get better as it goes on?
I'm afraid we're peaking now. Actually,
CJ is a douche. That's really weird how they know that.
No, that's what it's supposed to say in Chinese. Right?
Okay. So
Right,
that's
so what's the
don't
fortune?
do it. Don't do it.
Cao Mei Tu. CJ is a douche in Chinese. You're welcome.
That's right. It's going to be edited out. That's not a problem. What's the fortune? I just want to know what the
You
fortune
want to know the
is.
actual fortune? Okay.
I want to know
it's,
the actual fortune.
Never compare yourself to the best others can do, but to the best you can do.
That's pretty
it's
apt for this episode.
It's the participation badge of fortunes.
At least that one
doesn't
had a
matter
message.
if others are better.
Right.
You suck not as much as anybody else.
Hey, you just keep doing you. I mean, it's awful. It's terrible. You should really get better at your life. But you keep doing you.
All right, I'm sorry, proceed.
The internet was unkind, and we don't have a lot of stories to tell. And I know there's someone in their car going, well, what about this? Well, I'm sorry we missed it, okay? And we record on a Friday, and Doctor Who doesn't happen until Saturday. Brian's not even caught up, so, just apologies around for that part. So we figured, since the topics were on the light side, we would kind of not so much peek the curtain, but kind of talk about ourselves. And now I hear all the people turning off. We kind of want to give you a little background as to who we are and our nerdy experiences. And what we're really hoping to do is after maybe we share our life experience, we like to hear yours and share some of our common interests and shared events or just things that maybe can connect us, because as we kind of talked about, our definition of a nerd isn't revolving around technology. It's not revolving around comics. It's just someone who has a passion about something, who wants to know everything about a subject and just share it with the world. So I don't care if you're into sports, or you're into automobiles, if you're into computers, if you're into crocheting. A nerd can be anybody and have a passion about anything. So hopefully we can kind of, just connect that way, and hopefully we can have a nice shared experience with you, the listener. Yeah, you. So I thought we hit some of the classics and kind of talk about our nerd life growing up, and I really want to kind of start with, when did you guys become kind of self-aware that you were a nerd?
Um, self-aware. I mean, I guess, young, probably like 8 or 9. I mean, I was more interested in video games and uh, collecting baseball cards and things like that than a lot of other kids. I mean, I was still playing sports, but after all the sports, I would then still play video games for 3 hours. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I guess then I noticed that other kids weren't doing the same stuff.
What about you, Brian? When were you kind of nerd aware? When were you self-aware of that?
Well, I mean, I've been a nerd out of the womb. But I mean, the moment I was self-aware of it was probably when I was 7, and I shared that story about my first comic book, and it's really the first memory I have of being a nerd. I was in school for a year at that point, and after getting picked last for dodgeball about 16,000 times, I figured, this is the path that I'm gonna take. So
See, for me, it was probably in like the second or third grade. I remember bonding with my friend Rob over Goosebumps and like getting really excited about like Say Cheese or Die or a couple other
Night of the
stories.
Living Dummy,
Right.
that was my
Um,
favorite. Or the
and
Choose Your Own Adventure Goosebumps, those were awesome too.
right, and like I would get overly excited about those things, and so would my friend Rob. And then when like you talk to anybody else that was in our class or in school, they're just like, like I like Goosebumps, but I don't give a shit like you do. And as I'm like, oh well, okay, that's odd, that's different. And and then that like flashback comes, the quote unquote life flashes before your eyes, and you're like, oh, got it, okay, that makes sense. Everything kind of gels at that point. I
You
kind of get.
you looking forward to the Goosebumps movie?
You know what, I am. I think it's actually going to be a lot of fun, and I'll maybe grab my good friend Rob and go see it and go down nostalgia lane together. So I mean, that was the moment where I was self-aware, and then you look back and you realize, oh, it's probably been my entire life. So when we're looking at the nerdy life, there's a lot of other things that are kind of into it, and I know music kind of plays into that spectrum and that realm. So what were your first albums? What was the first like band that you listened to, or what was the first thing that meant something to you when you had music in your life?
um, the first the first tapes that I owned.
That's why I said albums, just to be on the safe side.
Yeah. The first tapes that I owned were Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses and Open Up and Say Ah by Poison. However, the first time that I found myself really obsessed with music was in the very early 90s when the Judgment Night soundtrack came out, and it was this perfect blend of hip hop and metal. And I completely lost my shit, and I just started looking for other things like it, listening to all the bands on that record and all the hip hop artists on that record, and I dug deep and tried to like look for underground indie stuff, bootlegs, anything that combined metal and hip hop. That was the first time really that music opened up for me, and then again a year later, 2 years later with Pink Floyd.
Now I know, because we grew up in the same kind of area, and I know some of the people that you knew growing up. That wasn't a genre that everyone just bought into. There, that was
So no. So what's weird about it is until I was 11, we lived on one side of Reading. We lived on the east side of Reading in Mount Penn, in the suburbs, and sort of everybody was into metal, right? Like I said, Appetite for Destruction, Open Up and Say Ah, and those are Poison was a hair band, and GNR was more metal, but my older cousins would play metal for me and stuff like that. But then I moved out to the west side of town, and things were a little bit different. Again, suburbs, but like gangster rap was breaking, and the Chronic came out in '92 and things like that. So it kind of made sense for these two fringe genres to
like
work
meld
together
and push,
to
yeah.
and it started actually before the Judgment Night soundtrack with Public Enemy and Anthrax. And I mean, the first time you hear it, you need more, and then when you hear the Judgment Night soundtrack, if you like hip hop at all and you like alternative rock, hard rock at all, you will fall in love with this record, and it's still good.
See, this is so literally just calling back to what we just said, the ways that we kind of fall in love with things. I don't. I don't have a big attachment like you just explained music to you. That's why I always thought it funny with every new streaming music service that comes out, or anytime there's a music related, topic, you're just jumping on it. It's your thing. Uh,
It's a different way or a new way to experience or consume it. Look, and it wasn't just those times. It's happened every time I discover a new genre, a new band. I just automatically consume everything they've done. I started listening to Weezer when the Blue album came out in '94, and I never stopped. I tripped onto brand new too late, like
right.
5 years too late, and since then I've just listened to everything they've ever recorded.
What about you, Brian? You kind of grew in a household that had an eclectic taste in music. What were your first like albums or first memories of music?
Um, first, I mean, I
Well,
grew
that
up.
mattered to you. The stuff that mattered.
Oh yeah, you didn't ask memories because that's different.
Well, right.
Well, I mean,
Well, we'll come
I'm
back.
not as ingrained in music as per se Josh is. My father and my brother are huge musicians, and uh, were the guys who one day said, "I'm going to learn how to play guitar," and picked up a guitar, and like 3 months later they could play, and so I grew up around music a lot, and I grew up in a Beatles home. Beatlemania everywhere, and I mean, I distinctly remember listening to the Revolver album for like when I was pretty young. So I mean, that always is connected to me as far as music goes. I love the Beatles, and not just for what they did for music, but for the nostalgia's sake that I feel when I listen to them. Um, Other than that, my first album that I purchased by myself was The Offspring, Splinter. So
Nice.
when I was like 15, learning how to drive, I put it into my Discman and just went. And I love The Offspring. But yeah, that's probably my the most connection I've had to music in a long time.
My thing and my feeling about music is it is such an emotional thing.
Yep.
It's such a different medium than print or anything like that because it makes you feel things and it's really powerful. And I noticed just through conversation and through life observation that the music that you fall into in high school becomes like a huge driving force in your life. And it can sometimes change. It's not always the entire thing, but it really kind of informs a lot of decisions as to who you are, some of the attitudes that you have, and some of the people that you fall into. And the first albums that I remember like jumping on board of, and I'm not ashamed of this at all because I still love it. Is
Spice Girls.
No, I went out and I bought Creed.
With arms wide open.
My Own Prison. Sorry, my Own Prison as like one of my first albums.
Under the sunlight.
And I don't give a shit about the ridicule. I loved
Welcome
it.
to this place. I'll show you everything. Sorry.
Oh my god!
And you know what?
That's what I think of when I hear
Now,
Creed.
now listen, I know any friend of mine who is listening to this is gonna say, yeah, you liked Creed, but Jesus Christ, did you fall down the Coldplay rabbit hole? And absolutely, I did. It was Creed and Coldplay through high school that were driving my.
I disqualify you as down the Coldplay rabbit hole because you think X and Y is great and
Oh
the
my
Speed of
God.
Sound is the best song on the record, and neither one of those
No,
statements is
no,
true.
Speed of Sound is a great song on the record. I think the most underappreciated song on X and Y is Talk. I don't think anyone gives that song any credit. See, here's the thing. Remember, we talked about music is a powerful emotional thing, and this can go into memories, so we can jump into that part. For me, X and Y is an important album because I was taking a trip by myself from Pennsylvania to Colorado, and it was okay. Go do your thing, do what you got to do, and it was navigate the airports. Make sure that you get to every flight on time, and we're just gonna drop you off and let it go. And I borrowed my friend's iPod Mini and loaded it with as much songs as it could possibly hold onto it. And X and Y was one of the albums that I just would listen to on the plane. It just relaxed me. And you got to see like the landscapes and everything changing, and just I had a really amazing time listening to that record.
That's cool. I have respect for that experience. It's Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness is that for me. So I get it.
What about you, Brian? Did you have an emotional attachment to a band or a song?
No, not that I can think of.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, like I love music and I'm into it and I listen to it. I mean, honestly, the most emotional attachment I have is probably listening to The Offspring with my brother and my friend, and hitting a deer on the back roads of the Lehigh Valley. But other than that, I don't equate. I'm more of the guy who measures his life by what movies were out that year, not what music I was listening to.
Oh,
Okay.
fair enough.
All right. Fair. All right. So
Yeah.
that kind of ties into the next thing I want to talk about, and that's your your first movie experience, the movie experience that stands out to you in your life. What are you shaking your
Uh,
head at?
I actually, the problem is I posed the question to you earlier today, and then I thought, hey, I wonder what my first movie. Oh, how could I ever forget that?
Was it Basic
Um,
Instinct?
No, the first movie that I recall watching.
Right. That's the one I want to know.
And I'll never forget it as long as I live. I don't know why my parents didn't censor me more, but they didn't. And I was up late one night in the living room with them. They were watching whatever. I mean, back then it was, something like 1985, 86, HBO was on and whatever. The first movie that I can recall watching is The Exorcist.
Oh
Oh,
God!
Jesus.
And I was terrified. I went to bed and I had one of those beds with like the big headboard above it where
Oh,
you could like
Jesus.
it had like compartments in it.
Oh, God.
And I pushed the mattress out away from the headboard. I got behind the headboard and under the bed so that I could see out, and I pulled the mattress back, basically building a fort around myself. And that's where I slept that night.
Oh, my
Because
God.
I was and I'm like I'm in first grade, right? Catholic school. I'm just behind my bed praying myself to sleep, terrified. And I still have the same feeling of dread.
That's so evil.
And that's my first memory of movies.
Jesus.
Right there.
Hence why you have no regard for the movie-going experience.
Is that why? It's The Exorcist?
Yeah,
fault?
your first movie that you ever remember was this terrible thing that made you
Dude,
scared.
I have watched that movie since, and every single time I'm gonna pee my pants. I'm terrified watching it.
So, Brian, you measure your life in movies. What's the first thing? What's the movie magic?
I have a whole bunch of memories of me, and I honestly don't remember which one came first. I have a memory of me being at least 5 or 6, and my dad shoving me in front of a TV and watching the original Star Wars trilogy on VHS. And then I remember distinctly when Terminator 2 was coming out in theaters, my dad saying to me, well, we got to watch the first one before we see the second one. And I remember watching the first Terminator in his room, like the night before, the day before we were about to see the second Terminator, which was awesome. My parents weren't extremely sheltering of me either. So Killer Robot was completely okay for a 6-year-old. It didn't scare me at all. It was awesome.
No, but Guns N' Roses had like the tagline song for that flick.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, You Could Be Mine from Use Your Illusion.
See, now there's the music thing coming
The
in.
music of the movie. Oh my God, it's the music of the movie.
I can't think of Terminator 2 without thinking of You Could Be Mine. And it was on a 45 record in my parents' jukebox in their basement.
Yeah, but my parents never like really sheltered me when it came to movies. A lot of movies they would sit down and be like, explain, okay, this isn't real. Like killer robots aren't real, and I'd be like, okay, and then I watch it and it would be awesome, and I wouldn't get scared anyway. So one of those two are probably the first one. Either watching the original Star Wars trilogy or watching the first Terminator with my dad.
See, I had the opposite effect. My parents were extremely sheltered when it came to the movies, and no rated R, no PG-13s, cover your eyes, kind of.
Well, The Exorcist was G, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
Fun for all ages.
Okay. I'm just checking.
Yeah, as long as you know. You could definitely show it to your kids right now. They'll have absolutely no problems with it.
They would never forgive me.
Mine was Rookie of the Year. I remember seeing this in theaters vividly. I went with my grandmother and my brothers, and my grandmother made it a big to-do to go to the movies. And it was popcorn and snacks and soda and candy and pretty much let's all go to the lobby. Happy,
Let's
joy,
all
joy.
go to the lobby.
Right.
Let's all go to the lobby.
And it was really just a fun thing because I never really like paid attention to a movie before. And the fun part about Rookie of the Year was it was a young kid kind of living out his fantasy of being a professional ball player.
Is that the
and-
movie with the kid who can pitch really, really fast? He like
Yep,
breaks his arm
breaks
or
his
something.
arm or something.
Right. CJ's sitting there watching the movie, and he's like, "That's not the same glove he had earlier in the scene. Screw this movie."
That was a pre-accident Gary Busey movie.
Yes, it
So
was.
I mean, it was and maybe that feeds into my experience of how the movies need to be treated. Is going with my grandmother, who I mean, she dressed up to go to the movie. It was that old culture of doing that. It was my mom's mom. It was fantastic, and I remember just being mesmerized by what was happening up there, and knowing that it that really couldn't happen. But man, what if it did? Wouldn't that be freaking cool? So that kind of informed me when it came to like my movie going experience. And
I remember the goofy guy from Home Alone was in that as sort of the goofy equipment manager.
right,
And then you had the manager who always called him a different name.
yes, every single time,
Rosenfuzzle, Rosenblatt. He just
everything.
yeah. That's a cool memory, dude. That's a really cool memory.
It's a nice one, and it's something that I've forgotten about until you posed that question too, and I was like, how did I forget about that? Like that
I wish
is,
I'd never posed that question.
yeah, because now you're not going to sleep tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to hide behind my bed.
Laura, get out of the bed. I have to hide below it. Honey, this is an expensive mattress. I don't care. I have to hide behind the mattress.
So terrifying.
So, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about this too, but I want to talk a little bit about theater. I mean, because I got to bring that part up. When was the first, or did you guys have a theater experience? Because my thing was this: I did theater, quote unquote. I did high school plays when I was in the second grade. I've told the story before on the podcast where my dad got pulled into the room and auditioned, and boom, I got in. And I always have been behind the scenes, but the first time I got to see a legit professional theater experience was incredible. It was probably in 2002, 2004. And I went with my friend Rob, the guy from Goosebumps. He took us to New York, and we saw Rent on Broadway. And man, you want to talk about a show everyone who was in the theater life was into during those years? It was Rent. And we had probably the worst seats in the house, all the way back, top level, right-hand corner. Just, if you really want to pick a theater seat, that's not the seat you pick. And I had a fucking blast. I enjoyed every moment of it. My friend and I were just singing along, doing the dialogue. It was just magic. And they even though the actors were so far away and they looked like ants, I still felt I was part of that experience, and it was incredible. And I've seen Rent 2 times afterwards, and it still can't live up from the first time I saw in those really terrible seats. It's phenomenal.
I agree with you 100% about the theater experience I had. My parents used to go with friends of theirs, and when we got a little bit older, they started taking us every year. So we saw Les Mis, and we saw Phantom of the Opera, and we saw Kiss of the Spider Woman, and it was actually Kiss of the Spider Woman was the show that we saw as a matinee, and then that night we saw Rent with the original cast.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I saw we're talking about like 90.
Was that the one in Reading?
No, dude, that was on Broadway.
Oh, I misread. My bad. Or misheard.
The original cast in it was like 96, I think. I'm pretty sure I wasn't quite 16 yet, and that was the first time, and I didn't expect to have a good time. Typical teenager, sort of being an asshole. And when the show started, I was mesmerized. The second song in the show, I started crying. I had no idea why.
Yeah,
and it was moving. It was awesome.
Yeah, Rent had that run, especially when you see a performance and you watch the arc of these characters in this story. It's incredible, and it's a reason why it still is. It's still standing the test of time. It's still holding up. What about you, Brian? Did you have any theater?
I was friends with a bunch of theater peeps in high school. I never got into it myself because I was extremely introverted and didn't want more eyes staring at me than I needed. The first Broadway play I got to see, my best friend called me up and said, "Hey, we're gonna go see Spring Awakening in New York. Do you want to come?" And I said,
Good
"Sure."
show.
And I saw Spring Awakening. It was fantastic. I mean, the performances were great and everything. It was a little awkward, being as there was like on stage nudity,
Yep.
and I had my best friend on one side and my best friend's sister on the other side, and I was like, "This is awkward."
Was it awkward because you pitched a tent, or was it awkward like what?
I was just thinking about dead puppies the entire time. I just couldn't.
But you were thinking out loud, dead
Oh
puppies.
yeah, exactly. That's what made
Dead
it
puppies,
awkward.
dead
Everybody in the
puppies, dead
theater was
puppies,
like,
dead
"What the
puppies."
hell?"
All that's known in history. Dead puppies, dead puppies. History is written. What the hell is this guy doing?
No, it was a great experience, and I've been to the Broadway. I've seen a couple shows since. I've seen Spam a lot. I saw the Spider-Man Broadway play because I am
That was
legally
great.
obligated to see
Nice.
that. But yeah, I mean, I've always enjoyed it, and that was my first time. So my best friend broke me in.
What about your first concerts? What was
Easy. The
okay? Guess not easy.
the Pulse tour, the Pulse tour, 1993, Pink Floyd at the Spectrum. I went with a friend of mine. Nobody knew that I went. I wasn't. I mean, I was like 12. I wasn't allowed to go to concerts.
Right.
So seeing Pink Floyd, unbelievable. And then probably the second best memory I have is like Ozfest '98 when, before anybody got big, like Limp Bizkit was nobody, System of a Down was nobody, but the headliners were Tool, Pantera. That was pretty amazing.
Did you go with anybody or did you go by yourself?
It was always with friends. I mean, you never go by yourself to a concert, right?
I've done that.
By yourself?
Yep, I went by myself to a concert once.
To a concert?
I went to John Mayer at the Allentown Great Fair last year by myself. I wasn't supposed to go to the concert. I was at the Allentown Great Fair. I knew John Mayer was playing. I didn't score tickets beforehand. Jenny didn't want to go because we just had Lily. She was just a few months old, and I really wanted to see the show, but we couldn't scrounge the money together. I ran into my friend who works at B104, the radio station up here, and I was like, "Oh man, I really wish I could go see this concert." I've seen him since 2003. On every time he's been in Pennsylvania, I've never missed a performance. This is the first one. I'm going to be bummed. And she's like, "Well, I have a ticket because I'm supposed to go, but I can't. They told me I have to stay at this booth. So, do you want to go to a concert?" And I was like, "Yes." So I scored a concert ticket, and she's like, "Well, you're gonna sit next to my friend, Amanda." And I was like, "Okay, does she know I'm gonna sit next to her?" She's like, "Nope, she has no idea. She's gonna be expecting me." So I walk in, I'm like, "Oh, hey, I'm CJ. I'm friends with."
I'm the person that took the ticket.
I'm friends with your friend. You're mad at Purdy. And I was like, "Hey, just big John Mayer fan. What about you?" And she just was disinterested. And then, like, in the middle of the opening act, she's like, "Well, you know what? Since she's not coming, I'm gonna go." I was like, "Whatever. I don't give a shit. I don't care." And I enjoyed the hell out of the concert.
Oh,
And-
that's so. I think that might be more awkward than Brian's nudity scene.
But I didn't give a shit. I was like, I am here for this concert. I'm not missing this.
She was unhappy with your company so much that she bailed on a John Mayer.
I wasn't.
show.
Like, to be fair, like the opening act, I wasn't really into
She's like,
it.
John Mayer's good, but he's not that good.
I wasn't freaking out, and I wasn't being like, "Hey guys, so John Mayer's going to come out in 27 minutes. He's going to be fantastic." And
I
know
don't
his
believe
set
you.
list.
I don't
wasn't-
believe you
I
at all.
really-
I
you-
believe you recounted all of his performances at Eric Clapton's guitar festival.
No, I was totally I was calm. I was like, suppress the nerd. Suppress the nerd. This is a new person. I don't know this person. You don't know this person. Shut up.
He's
You don't
like,
know this.
Brian, he was calm in the way that, like, he's calm, but he's like, like calm like that. That's calm.
I mean, son of a bitch. I want to hear Brian's first concert experience, then I'm going to tell you mine, and then you laughed at me for Creed. Wait till I laugh again. Go ahead, Brian. What about you? What was your first concert?
I only have one concert. I mean, I saw Rob Thomas with my brother in concert at Penn's Peak. I forget how long ago. That was my first and only concert. I haven't really been to any concerts since or before that. It was a great experience.
You've only been to one concert?
Yeah,
Have you been to like a garage band performance?
like at someone's garage.
Yeah, or like someone who's like they're not a real band, but they're like, "Hey, we're playing this little hole in the wall place," and
Did you go to that show at they had at Best Buy that one time?
Right?
I
That's
did.
right.
you go.
I've
There
been
you
to like
go, that
coffee houses
counts.
and stuff. I don't really consider those concerts. I consider them
No, those aren't
performances.
concerts. That's homeless people singing.
But yeah, that would
Was
probably
it
be
Rob
my one
Thomas
and only.
solo?
It was
Or-
Rob Thomas solo right after.
So it's like These Small Hours and the stuff on Meet the Robinsons?
Yeah. His album. I can't freaking remember the name of it.
No one remembers Rob
I actually
Thomas's
enjoyed
solo
that album. It had like Little Wonders and This Is How a Heart Breaks on it and that stuff. But yeah, that was my one and only. Sorry to disappoint
Jesus.
you.
I remember that Matchbox 20 came out at exactly the same time as Third Eye Blind, and Third Eye Blind dwarfed them so badly
They're
they
terribly bad.
cowered into a corner.
And they come back years later.
My
Okay,
brother's a
s-
huge Matchbox 20 fan. He's gonna be angry that you just said that.
Oh, he may be angry,
Well,
but
listen,
I
I wish he
speak
would
the
step
truth.
back from that ledge. All right, you could cut ties with all the lies that he's been living in. And if you don't want to see me again, I understand.
Yeah.
All right,
That's my life. That's what I do.
Yeah.
fair enough.
Just quote random music lyrics.
So, I'm ready for the laughter, by the way, and it's not my. This is
It's
not
Spice
my
Girls.
choice. No, it's actually even
It's
worse.
Nickelback. It's Nickelback,
No,
isn't it?
it's not that bad.
Oh,
So
okay.
my parents had gotten.
Wait. It's somewhere between Nickelback and Spice Girls. Is what you're
Those are
saying?
the
Just
extremes.
wait. The curtain's gonna be revealed in a minute. Everyone, write down your guesses.
Wait. Ricky Martin,
No, but you're in the right vein.
Ooh.
Mark Anthony.
No, you're going backwards.
Enrique Iglesias.
Nope. You're going Latin. Stop going Latin. Think
But
of
he's-
Ricky,
Martin is
everything-
Latin.
I know, but think of everything about what he represents. So,
Living La Vida Loca.
all right. So let me get to it. Damn it. So my parents were like, "Hey, we're gonna let you boys go to a concert without mom and dad."
Hanson. It was Hanson.
You're getting close.
Backstreet Boys.
Nope. Now you're getting away again. So they got tickets to Britney Spears.
See, Backstreet Boys is closer to Britney Spears than Hanson is.
Wait, which Britney Spears?
What do you mean, which Britney? Spears?
Pre-shaved head.
This was like when I was in the 4th grade, so this was like "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time." Britney
Oh
Spears.
yeah. Oh, so underage Britney Spears. No comment.
Yep. And me and my little brother went. I have no idea why my little brother went. That concert is not designed for children who have not hit puberty, and it was a total waste on me. And I didn't have a good time at all. And then my second concert was Creed. So suck it.
The first CD that was ever purchased for me was purchased by my parents. I don't know. I guess they just, hey, what are kids listening to? And they brought, I swear to God, they brought home a New Kids on the Block CD. And I said, hey, thanks. Zip. Just tossed
Hi.
and like went to the wall the next day and like grabbed me some Motley
Oh,
Crue.
Jesus,
Ugh.
the Wall.
Yeah.
God, I remember the Wall. It was in the mall. I know that's an obvious statement.
You
but,
only
like,
went there in the fall. But only if someone would call.
That guy wasn't very tall.
No. Not at all.
Damn it! I just messed it no fun at all. All right,
Wow.
well, let's move on. Did
You
you,
took
bomb me,
all my
Paul?
rhymes.
I'm just gonna. Never mind. Doesn't matter. Okay, so then let's move. Let's. Sorry, I can't believe you just accidentally rhymed for like a good.
You didn't accidentally rhyme. It was very intentional.
The first couple times were accidental, then it became a thing. So let's talk about school. Let's talk about kind of being.
Let's talk about practice.
Talk about
Practice?
Let's talk about
Talking about
practice.
practice?
Talking about
Not
practice.
a game. Not a game. Not a game. Practice. I have that interview memorized.
I do too. Hang on. We're talking about practice. It's practice. Practice.
You gotta do the whole voice. You gotta do the whole
I'm
thing.
missing the.
What, playoffs? Talking about playoffs?
I know a sports reference.
What the hell is happening?
CJ's over there like, I don't get that reference, .gif.
Google not working. Google not working. What is the reference I can't get in? What is it?
It's Allen Iverson,
Oh.
dude.
Sorry.
Jesus.
How dare you, sir?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know me following Philadelphia sports.
No, popular culture, dude. That's been in everything. Everything. It's been on, like, I don't know, Pepsi commercial. It's been everywhere.
Well, it made
Been
it
on
a Sports
TV.
Center because that's obvious. And you told me that if news was worth, it would end up at Sports Center, and I don't watch that, and I don't understand.
Listeners, I need you to show CJ just how like off the mark he is about calling this Allen Iverson thing an obscure quote.
It's really
I didn't
not.
say
If I
obscure
know it,
quote. I said a sports quote.
That's the way you're playing it out. It's not a sports quote. This is a popular culture
yeah.
quote.
If I know it, it's pretty big.
All right. Well, I haven't seen it in Trivial Pursuit, so that's usually where I get my pop culture quotes. Fine, so let's talk about sports, since that's
No.
Well, school ties into sports. Talk about sports. I played soccer, and I hated it because it was in Florida and it was way too fucking hot.
Yeah, it's gonna be a short conversation.
And then I came to Pennsylvania, and I played soccer with the public school kids and not the Catholic school kids, and I didn't know anybody, and then I never played sports again. Sports. My brothers were into sports. I was not.
I tried
Brian?
sports once. I don't know what happened. I played Little League, and then I got hit in the ball with the chest in the chest with a ball, and I was
got hit in the.
I got hit in the ball with the chest.
I can't even make fun of you for it. I'm sorry.
I got hit in the chest with a ball, and I was like 6 years old, and I said, "Screw this," and that was it.
You can't quit because you get hit with a.
I did. I quit, and I went back to my video games and my comic books, where nothing
my
could
team
hurt
won
me.
a trophy for soccer, so I actually have a sports trophy, and not like a participation trophy. We won a tournament, so it's a nice trophy. And that's the
Congratulations.
last sports trophy. I have.
I don't need trophies.
I started playing football at 6, not tackle football, not flag football, none of that crap. I played ball till I was, I think, 15, 16. I played basketball for a few years. I played baseball for quite a few years. I played hockey in the neighborhood. I skated. I wrestled. I didn't play soccer because why?
All in an order that will surprise you.
What?
I ran after the ice cream truck once. Does that count?
Yeah. Triple jump.
All right,
I
well-
was always late to the school bus and would have to run down a big hill so I can get there on time. I think that's track and field.
I mean, gravity's doing most of the work there.
Now, I mean, your sports. All right, so let's not belittle sports. I mean, they do have a clear obligation to kids.
Well, at least we're acknowledging it. Good, thank you. I appreciate.
No, listen. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you teamwork and cooperation and socializing.
Strategy, thought process.
Whoa!
psychology.
Socializing?
Yeah, you
Wow.
need help with that. We need to get you an
Yeah.
adult dodgeball. That's what we need.
I
to do.
just realized why I can't socialize.
You never-
So sports, CJ. Look, I played them my whole life. Everybody was playing them. All my friends played sports.
I'm sure a lot of our listeners did, and we're the audience out, Brian and I.
But it was more than that. I mean, obviously the teamwork and the thrill of victory and the heartbreak of defeat and all that stuff. That's all tough. But it's the friendships you make. I think at a young age are deeper with sports than they are otherwise. And then the memories that I have with people at sporting events with family. It was I remember my sister's birthday or something, and it was I think game 5 of the ALCS, Yankees Red Sox, and the Yankees had won 3 in a row pretty handily. They lost game 4. I'm watching it, me and my grandmother at this restaurant in Sinking Spring with my whole family, and me and my grandmother sort of off to the side, so almost like looking into the bar, watching the TV while the rest of the family's eating. My father's thoroughly pissed off, but we're watching the Yankees, and that's every time I see anything with the Yankees, I think about my grandmother, and that's a very strong connection that I have, and that's that Yankee series has been immortalized because no team had ever come from 3-0 to win, and the Red Sox did it 4 awful days in October, and my heart broke then. It continues to break every time I see anything about it. Every time.
And we talked about this before, and we made a discussion about how come people get so excited about sports, but when I get excited about a TV show, it's unweird. But the honest truth is, it's that subculture that I was never part of, and when you're a kid and when you see the guys walking through and people pounding on the back saying good game and hey, I really enjoyed last night and all the pep rallies and stuff that they have, and as a theater kid, you don't get that. You get it, after a show half-heartedly and no one down the hall saying, hey, great job last night. You really sang well. I mean, no one does that.
You mad, bro?
No. But it's
CJ, you sung the shit out of that play. You're
You got it.
amazing.
Listen, there
High
was no
five,
better,
bro.
there was no better performance of an Ali Hakim in Oklahoma, done by a white guy like mine. See, that's a joke that no one's gonna get unless you were in that show.
No, I'm laughing politely.
But no, but it's this subculture that Brian and I we just never got into, and the good news is, at least for my high school class, it wasn't a divider, and it wasn't something that caused tension. It wasn't something that I was ostracized because I didn't follow it or care about it. So I mean, I got lucky within that aspect, but it's always something that I wish, maybe if I had pursued it a little harder, or maybe I had put some interest to it, I would have some, again, shared experiences I would have. I don't have watching a sports game and doing that, and I'm starting to do it now with my wife, and I don't know what my daughter's gonna do. She's probably gonna watch it because Jenny's really into football. So it's a nice tradition to pass down from generation to generation, and team loyalties and stuff like that. It's nice to have that. So I envy it a little time.
She's gonna have a rough Sunday when San Francisco beats.
We already got beat by the Patriots. What do you want? I mean, Brian, do you ever feel the envy of that, or am I just projecting my own stuff onto you? No comment. All right, cool. Didn't care. Well, hold on.
That time that he asked me the question about zombies.
No. So no, see, I mean, I think maybe this is why, because I want to go into another question I had. It's coming down to the culture that we lived and tying into school, and it was bullies. I didn't have any. I didn't have an experience where I was belittled, put down, or made to feel less than because of my experiences. And so, I mean, Brian, is the reason you're not into sports is it bullies? Is it something like that?
I was.
If you don't want to answer, you don't have to.
No, it's fine. Break out your tissues, ladies, because it's about to get real. No, I was definitely bullied all throughout growing up. It had nothing to do with sports, though. It had nothing to do with the fact that I wasn't into sports or I wasn't good at sports. I honestly have no idea what it had to do with. I didn't know then, and I still don't know now. And now I'm older, and I just really don't care. It was like I didn't have one particular bully. I didn't have one particular person who always tormented me. I had a lot of people all throughout elementary school, in the middle school, just telling me I wasn't good enough, telling me I was stupid, telling me that what I was into was not normal. So I grew up thinking that what I thought was cool wasn't the norm. So it probably has to do a little bit with my lack of socializing. I've spent a couple times in a locker, and it is what it is. It made me who I am today. I don't regret it or anything, which is why I don't care about that emotional connection to sports, because that's just not me. I've embraced who I am, and those bullies helped me do it. So suck it.
Good. And you're on the show and they're not, so haha.
Nice.
Right. So yeah.
Catharsis.
But yeah, no, growing up, I didn't have any friends. My best friends were my brother and my father, and until I was 13 or 14. So I didn't have anything, and it is what it is, and it made me who I was, so I'm okay with it. Now everything got really serious.
No,
Everybody's really quiet. Like
I gotta tell you, dude, that's an emotional story. That's good. I think it's good to talk about, and I think it's certainly good to be able to identify pivotal moments and things that help define us as human beings. I think that's good. And then the other thing that I think is, a conversation that I was in Chicago this week, and we were having a conversation, and something came up, some problem with a phone, and I was like, no, you just have to XYZ, and then something else came up about something in, like popular culture, and I was like, oh, that was this, and it was connected to this, and there was like 3 or 4 things in a row, and this business contact, it's like the first time I'd met him, he's like, how do you, and I'm like, I'm a nerd, man, I'm just... And look, I said, it's handy to have us around because we kind of run the world now. So
yeah,
I was gonna say it's bullying hasn't gone away, and I mean, especially recently in the news, it's creeped up this week again.
It's unfathomable. It's unbelievable. And look, I was there was one kid he was an older kid that would bully. Like sort of not me. I was always, one of the bigger kids, but would bully one of my friends. And we were playing football in the street where I lived, and this dude came up riding around on his bike. He was a lot older. He was, I think, 13. We were 8, and I reacted very violently. I reacted incredibly violently, so much so that it caused this kid's father to come knocking on my door to talk to my father. And my father stood up for me, right? Because it wasn't a good turnout for the bully. But the conversation that my father had with me wasn't one of admonishment as much as, listen, you can't just beat somebody up, but you can never stand for anyone picking on you or your friends. You should always stand up for yourself. And if someone ever hits you, you absolutely should hit them back. But what you did was a bit much. So it was this. And
with great power comes great responsibility. Talk.
It wasn't that. It wasn't. I'm certainly not trying to say that. So please don't take it that way. But this is the same. Like, I've had this conversation with my children, because there was a bully. This happened last week while I was away and not in Phoenix, and I was angry when I heard, very, very angry, and I just my kids handled it, and that's fine. But it brought back these memories that I can't deal with.
And it's odd that the technology that we love, that we bond over, and that makes us the nerds that we see as instruments of wonder and magic and just unlimited possibilities, are sometimes even used as the tools that have brought people a lot of pain and suffering at times through just the anonymity of the internet. I mean, you just look at Reddit, or you look at some other websites, and you see when people get anonymous and technologies in their hands, it can be bad. And, it's this thing where every couple of weeks I'm like, really, I had it easy. And the bullying situation that I went through in my life wasn't bad at all. People made fun of me. I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I turned a joke around on them, and then I move on with my life. And to see some people, it's the opposite effect. And I really think you're right, Josh, that, nerds are handy to have around. We are ruling the world. And the stigma is becoming less and less potent. But when it's bad, it can be pretty bad. And I'm hoping that God, I don't mean to, the way this is going to sound so pretentious, but I hope shows like ours and Will Wheaton becoming popular, and the Nerdist Network and all these people coming out saying, here's what nerd is like, it's becoming a little more acceptable. People dressing up and lining up to go see the Avengers movie. I hope it helps.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. Maybe this is just because I was probably bullied the most out of the three of us. It's just anybody who sees something different, whether it's acceptable by mass media or not, is going to immediately attack it. And you want to talk about like memories and like pivotal moments in our life, and when we're talking about bullying, a lot of my memories are about that. But again, I have two very specific memories of my elementary school days being bullied, and one of them was, and this is where the tissues are going to come in. My parents threw me a birthday party, and I can't remember what age I was. I was probably 8 or 9. And, everybody invited, all these kids I wasn't necessarily friends with, but everybody was kind of forced by their parents to come along. And God bless them, they were amazing. They made this whole like big like superhero theme type of party. And then I just remember it didn't matter how much fun I had at that moment, because I remember the next day just being completely made fun of for it, and being ridiculed and all that other stuff. And it really, it has an effect on you, because to be honest with you, I haven't had a birthday party until I was 25, when I was actually told my mom that story, and she was like, "Oh my gosh!" And then she threw me a surprise birthday party, which was much better than the first one.
What kids don't like superheroes?
It was the 90s, and you know what was really big? It was like Stone Cold Steve Austin and sports and that kind of stuff. And then the other really big memory I have about me being bullied was a few years later. I had finally, some new kid got transferred in, and I don't remember his name, but we'd struck up a friendship, and I was like, "Yay, I have a friend!" And I went over to his house a couple times. It was fun. And then, like after a few months of being in school, this kid befriended some other folks who pretty much said that him, that kid's weird. We don't talk to him. And then one day he just stopped talking to me and just completely ignored me, which was not cool. And I remember coming home being so upset and my father, who had to go to work in New Jersey the next morning, stayed up all night with me playing video games. So, I mean, it honestly, it's a crappy memory, but it turns into a great memory with me and my dad. Because anytime I want to say, me and my dad get into an argument, I'm like, oh, forget this. I'll do the rebellious teenage thing. I just remember that moment, and it's why my dad and I are as close as we are. So
Well, it's an amazing moment, and and I'm certainly not I'm certainly not making light of it. What I immediately thought of was the sad moment becoming a happy moment
in Inside Out.
Inside
Yeah.
Out. Yeah. Yeah.
No, so
Right?
there you go. It all comes
Right.
around.
See, this is the other part then, because I want to lift things up a little bit. When I can remember a specific time where being a nerd, being that counterculture person really paid off, where it became a huge advantage in my life. And for me, it was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had, which was I was invited by a professor in college to come to New York City, go to Radio City Music Hall, and go see the dress rehearsal for the Tony Awards.
Nice.
And then afterwards, I was going to go backstage and I was going to meet the lighting director because I was really into lighting with this professor, and talk to a professional lighting artist in New York. And I was like, sweet, this is going to be great. And I get there and I didn't receive my ticket to get in. And I'm like, what do I do? I'm hanging out with this professor and we're waiting in line. I'm like, well, maybe I'll just sneak in. Obviously, I can get in. It's a dress rehearsal. It's not that big of a deal. And I kind of slyly just hide behind him a little bit, and I start sneaking my way into the door. And as soon as my foot crosses the threshold, it's like, sir, can you come here? Where's your ticket? And I'm like, fuck, I don't have a ticket. My professor's like, what do I do? Just go in. And using the nerdy skills I've done, all the theater experience, all the acting, and all the play pretend that I've done in my life, I faked I just had the ticket. I don't know where it went. And then I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? My professor just went inside and he's going to think I'm an idiot because I lost my ticket and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I start freaking out and I start kind of calming down. I start playing the people around me and I look at the audience. I look at each person. Who am I getting a reaction from? Oh, I'm getting a reaction from that person over there. And they have a headset. Headsets make you important. Walk over to that person, explain my story, give my little song and dance and sell myself as hard as I can. And I got a ticket to walk inside to Radio City Music Hall. And they're like, you did have a ticket, right? I mean, like you had, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I had one. And I ran into freaking Radio City Music Hall and I acted my way into the Tony dress rehearsal. It was phenomenal. It was the time where I was like, great. I'm so glad all these acting classes and all the shit that my parents dragged me to, sometimes against my will, worked for me. And it was an amazing time. And all my friends, when I came back and I told them some of the experiences, were jealous. And some of the people I got to see it was great. It's a phenomenal day in my life.
That's a crazy story.
So what about you, Brian? I don't want you to just end with that Inside Out moment. When was a time that being a nerd was a total advantage for you?
I honestly, probably when I went to San Diego Comic-Con, like 4 years ago. And honestly, a funny story is that I had a kind of similar situation where I worked for a comic book store at the time, and I was talking because my best friend now lives in San Diego. I was talking to my boss about I'm going to go visit him and we're going to try and go into San Diego Comic-Con. And he's like, well, we get tickets because, we're a retailer. I can absolutely get you in. I was like, yeah. What I didn't realize was that the tickets would be under his name and how like really stringent they are with that stuff. So I went to about 3 or 4 people and I sold this story about, listen, here's my business card. Here's my boss's phone number. I'm like, I'm picking him up from the airport later tonight. He needs these tickets ready. If I don't have these tickets for him, like he's just gonna fire me. Like I really need your help here. And I went to like 3 or 4 different people with this story. Eventually got my tickets and got to go in. So
he went Devil Wears Prada.
I went Devil Wear Pradas. I didn't tear up or anything, but I was like, listen, this is really important. I need these tickets.
The other moment I thought when I read this question and I immediately thought of you was I know that there maybe it was also at Comic-Con that Kevin Smith was recording a podcast.
Yes, oh my gosh, that was, I don't want to say it was one of the greatest moments of my life, but it was really far up there. I was at San Diego Comic-Con and Kevin Smith has a podcast called Fat Man on Batman. And it's all about him just talking about Batman and Batman related stuff and talking to people who've worked on Batman. and we were at this side stage. It's actually off of the convention center, and he was recording his podcast with Bruce Timm. For anybody who doesn't know, Bruce Timm is the guy who pretty much created the DC animated universe. He is responsible for Batman the animated series and the Justice League cartoon. Just everything that's good that's
Everything
happened
that's
on DC
right with
TV.
DC. Yeah.
It started with him, and I got to watch, and it was just cool watching Kevin Smith interview him to begin with, and then they got to a point where they were talking about Batman Beyond, and Bruce Timm just was like, yeah, I was working on Batman Beyond and Justice League at the same time. I'm not really sure exactly how many seasons Batman Beyond ran, and because I'm a dumbass, I was like, hey, it was 3 seasons! Like, I'm screaming 3 seasons, and Kevin Smith's like, yeah, see, that nerd knows! And he directed towards me, and then like they cut this out of the actual recording, but he's like, hey, you look like a young Bruce Timm. I'm like, oh my god, you're talking to me, this is the greatest thing ever. So that was awesome. That was awesome. A lot of those experiences at San Diego Comic-Con. I got really close to Robert Downey Jr., which was pretty amazing. And a lot of awesome things happened that weekend, and I can't wait to go again. So whenever you guys are ready.
Is that desire to know something inside and out, know it in all its forms, and trying to share it with the world that gets you a cool shout out like that? What about you, Josh? I know you've had professional advantages to this, and I'm sure you had some personal ones too.
I mean, for the most part, though, it's professional. The wanting to be a subject matter expert in whatever has helped me countless times professionally, and when I get an interest in something, I learn all about it. It doesn't matter what job I'm doing; it's always helpful. I don't have a story. I don't think like either one of you have, which is, I guess, a little sad. But mine have all been used to. My thing is, spotting that thing in other people and then using that to help them. So it's always like my stories are the relationships I've developed. So the two of you and the other friends that I've made, and that's kind of, if I wasn't a nerd with this specific need to foster it in other people, I wouldn't have those relationships. So that's really my thing is the network that I build with it is, I mean, my network is pretty tremendous. I think so. That's my whole thing. It's always going to be that reaching other people.
I'll say this, and to kind of tie this up a little bit. Josh, I mean, seriously, if it wasn't for your passion to be a subject matter expert and try to drive that out of other people, I know I wouldn't have had the success in my previous job or even my current job because of that. Because there's moments, and you got to understand the kind of guy that Josh is, and you guys get a really good idea of it on the show, where he can just pull you aside and be like, you are so much better than the moment that's happening right now. And all you have to do is just amp that up. Just do it. Just unleash that power inside of you that I know that you have, and go succeed. And it's not blowing you up with hot air. It's not giving you false confidence to just.
It's not a Shia LaBeouf moment.
Right. It's not just do it. It's a genuine moment of, I really do have faith in you. I really do believe you, and I wouldn't put you in my company. I wouldn't waste my time talking to you if you aren't worth it. So it's a great way to not necessarily get the validation, but just feel that I do have the power to go ahead and to do something. And it's not only gotten me success within my professional life, but it's driven me in my personal life too. So I have to thank you for those experiences. And the same thing with Brian, man, the time that is an advantage. I wouldn't have done anything on this website. This website wouldn't exist. This podcast wouldn't exist without you just embracing a dumb idea I had after interacting with a customer and saying, we should grow this. We should do this. Let me use some of your expertise. You know how to talk to comic book fans. I have no idea how to do that. You know when an idea sounds really dumb or when it sounds just crazy enough that it might work. And the fact that both of you have combined that with me into doing this 24 times is just absolutely phenomenal. And, I can't thank you guys enough for being the nerds that you are and combining it into such a fantastic moment. So thank you guys for that. So that being said, I really want to hear from you guys. I want to hear from you, the listeners. I really think we did a And really, guys, we were kind of nervous about this episode, to be honest, as to whether anything would kind of come out of it. But we really want to hear the experiences of you. I want to hear a crazy story where you did a song and dance and got into an event, or you met an idol, or you met somebody there, or the ways that you've overcome, adversity or bullying, to kind of show off that it's okay to be who you are. Or, man, if you had the best first concert, please tell it to me. And I may even steal as my own first concert experience, because Britney Spears just doesn't do it for anybody.
And make sure that you note how ridiculous it is that CJ didn't know that Allen Iverson quote. And then also, when sharing personal stories, obviously we want to hear them. We also want you to keep in mind any statutes of limitation that may be still in effect when sharing those. I want to hear all the stories, but protect yourself.
And there's a couple ways that we can do this. And obviously the easiest stuff is just give us shoot us an email at podcast@thatkindofnerd.com. We can read them out loud if you so choose, or we can just say, hey, thanks for sharing the story. Same thing with Twitter @thatkindofnerd. Hit us up on Facebook. Or, guys, I know I've mentioned this a million times and 2 people have taken advantage of it. You can also leave your comment on our Google Voice number, and you can call us, and we'll play it on the air. And yes, we've worked out the kinks with the audio quality, so everyone will sound phenomenal. That phone number is 484-373-4119. That's 484-373-4119. So you can share it that way too, and you can be a voice on our podcast. I really got to say thank you so much to you guys for doing this episode and slapping this together. I had a really phenomenal time. I thought it was great. And I have to thank you, the listener, for making us your walk around the neighborhood or your drive to work. I really appreciate you sticking with us for 24 episodes. It's absolutely phenomenal. I can't thank you guys enough.
With arms wide open, under the sunlight. Welcome to this place. I'll show you everything. Sorry.